welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 248, and today's date is December 26, 2013. And the title of this episode is DHS Preparing for the Economic Collapse and Martial Law? I am going to say, yes, they are. I just want to welcome everyone back. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. And for those people who are new, you can come over to the x22report.com site. I post these reports first on the site. It's between 5 and 7. It is the audio format. Just go right to the homepage, scroll down a little bit, and depending on your browser, you'll see a circle with an arrow. You can click it. It will start playing, or you can download the MP3 to your Android, iPhone, iPad, whatever you Kindle, whatever you got going there, you can do that. And or you can just listen to it right on your computer. And I do have other things on the site. I have the economic collapse, which is a timeline of what's happening, and I continually update that. It's like a high-level story of what has been going on. I also have the Sentinel alerts, which I comment on every day, and you can come and take a look at that. Just a note, this Sunday I will be posting an interview with Dave Hodges, and most of you probably know who he is. He writes a lot of articles. He has a radio show. He has a website called thecommonsenseshow.com, and I did an interview with him. I am putting it together right now, and I will post it this Sunday. It is a fantastic interview. It has to do with false flag, the upcoming false flag, FEMA camps, war, and a lot of great information that he's going to let everyone know about during the interview. And don't miss that. I will probably post it up there around lunch or so. So if you check back on the site, and those people who signed up for the alerts, I will send you the email letting you know that it has been posted, and you can come right to the x22report.com site and you can listen to this interview. And I believe the interview is almost about 50 minutes long or so, and you can come and take a listen. It really is fantastic. But let's get into the economic collapse news. We're going to go out to Spain right now, and what we are seeing is that millions of people out there, just like in every other country, they need employment. Millions of people are unemployed, and the Spanish king Juan Carlos has used his annual Christmas address to the nation to express sympathy for the millions of Spaniards who have lost their jobs amid the nation's economic crisis. And Spain has unemployment rate of around 26% right now, and those Spaniards under 25, it is actually double that. It is around 52%, and it is just getting worse right now. Spain is now diving into the Social Security reserves to make ends meet, and it is not looking good at all. Just like with the entire Eurozone, it is completely falling apart. It is imploding on itself, but the propagandists are still out there letting everyone know that everyone's coming out of recovery, coming out of the recession. We're in a recovery. Everything looks great, but we know it is not. France, the president of France, was out during the summer and fall saying that they've just came out of the recovery. Things look great. And he was trying to impose all these different taxes on the people, on land, and on websites just to make ends meet. And right now the French economy has contracted during the third quarter of this year following weak exports and poor investments. And for the second time in 6 months, French joblessness has resurged back towards record highs, dashing the hopes and dreams of a European recovery, because we all knew this was propaganda. We all knew that there was no recovery, and now we are seeing everything start to really escalate right now. Unemployment is increasing, GDP is declining, and these nations are getting into more and more debt, and there's just no way out of it right now. And right now they're within around 2,000 people of their all-time high unemployment in France. So it's just getting a lot worse for them right now. Now, Italian families spent less than 11% this Christmas. So this is a terrible time for retail in France, in Spain, in Italy, in Portugal, in Ireland, the US, the UK, all seeing terrible retail sales. And right now, um, the families, the recession battered Italy, spent 11.4% less on gifts this Christmas than they did last year. 1 in 5 households did without presents completely. This is not a recovery at all. And right now in Ireland, the retail representative group Retail Excellence says that this year's sales will be down. The retail industry was bullish entering the festive season, and unfortunately, these positives did not impact on spending in the run up to Christmas. Instead, customers remained cautious, and retailers responded with significant discounts, and they saw poor retail sales. Here in the U.S., right now, I was in the stores, and let me tell you, I said this in my last report, when I was younger, I would go into the stores. These shelves would be empty. They'd be cleared out. I went into a Walmart. I went into the mall, into many of the toy stores, into clothing stores, and guess what? I see everything filled up. You could get anything you wanted. Really, there was hardly anyone even in the stores. And right now, again, we have to chalk this up to high unemployment, not the fake numbers of 7%, because again, those calculations were completely changed as of 1994, and they tweak them as time goes on. If we go back and we use the other calculation on shadowstats.com and other sites that have using the older calculations, we see that unemployment is between 25 and 30%. Underemployment, where people came from a full-time job to a part-time job, they're just not making the same amount of money. And if you put all of this together, it makes sense that retail sales will be down. But of course, the mainstream media, the corporate media, is going to spin this. They're going to blame it on weather. They're going to blame it on the Target fiasco of 40 million credit cards being stolen and their PIN numbers. They're going to use all of this to say this is the reason why this holiday season retail sales were down. And you're going to see a lot of stores start to close down because of weak retail sales. You have to remember, most of these stores were channel stuffing, just like the auto manufacturers. The dealer lots have about 76 to 80 days worth of automobiles on their lots, hoping to sell all of these cars, which they're not going to. Retail, they were stockpiling, hoping that people were just going to come out of the woodwork and buy all of this. And right now, no one's buying. So what are they having? They're having the after Christmas sales. And they even started it on Christmas. They have discounts of 50%, 75%. Buy one, get one, because they are scrambling right now to get rid of this merchandise. They can't keep this on the shelves. They have to get rid of it some way or another. So you're going to see an amazing amount of deals for this after Christmas season because they need to get rid of all of this merchandise. Now, we understand that the government cut the food stamp program, and people are finding it very rough right now to make ends meet on purchasing food because the amount of money that is put into their account each month is not allowing them to feed their families, because what's happening is food is continually going up, products are getting smaller, and the government can say whatever they want about inflation, but I see milk increasing, I see products shrinking, and then I see prices going up on fresh foods, and it's getting very difficult. So if you put this together, food stamps are coming down, food is going up, and you can't feed your family. And more working Americans are lining up at emergency food banks and going hungry as cuts to those programs take effect. Cutting benefits for an estimated 48 million people, including 22 million children, is really having an impact on how these families are trying to feed themselves. Food banks, they're seeing an increase of people now because they're saying their money has run out to purchase the food about 2 or 3 weeks into the month, and now they just do not have food. And they're trying to spread out the food, and it is definitely, these people are definitely having a very, very rough time. Now, in my last report, I discussed that he went to Obamacare. He didn't use the website, and he signed up for Obamacare. Or did he? They're saying it was a symbolic sign up where he actually didn't do it. It was just staged, where he kind of did it, but he didn't do it. Actually, he wasn't even there in person. It was his staff that did it, and he chose a bronze plan. But again, he doesn't have to accept that because he has his health insurance from the government, which is about 100 times better than this bronze plan that he chose. And this goes on to say that he didn't actually enroll. They said his staff did it, and that's because of his unique circumstance as commander-in-chief, that his personal information is not in particular government databases. So healthcare.gov could not actually verify his identity, oddly enough. So he had to do it in person this weekend, but he was in Hawaii, not in Washington, so he was signing up for the DC exchange. So his staff did it for him instead. And I'm sorry, but if he's an American citizen, he's just like every single other person. We voted for him to go in there and to manage the country. He's not a king. He's not royalty. He's an American citizen, supposedly. Not even going to get into that. And his information should be located in this system. And I said this in many of my other reports. He and Congress should have been the first ones out there dropping their governmental plans, because, again, we have to remember, they voted for Obamacare. They were out there telling us that this thing is better than sliced bread. It is the best thing that has come along in a long time, and it is great for every single American. Well, last time I looked, all of them are American. Every single governmental employee should have had their government insurance completely dropped, and they should have signed up for these plans, and the president should have been leading the charge, saying, look, I am doing this because I believe in it. But guess what happened? No one stepped up, no one dropped their plan, and they're all sitting there hiding behind what they passed and saying, maybe it wasn't a good idea, and no one wants to touch this right now. And this is how you know this is not good for the people. What this was to benefit the health insurance companies. What this was to raise taxes on the American people. What this was for was nothing for the American people. But there are some loopholes in this system. So we have to remember, and it's very interesting when you hear what people are starting to do with this. Now we have to remember that this health care, okay, they have to accept everyone, because what they did was, when they were making the deal for health care, they decided to Obama went out and said, listen, to all you health insurance companies, this is what I want to do. I want to supply everyone with health insurance. And the insurance company said, yes, but this is the only way we can do it. We're going to have to raise deductibles. We're going to have to raise premiums. And the only way we can do this is to have everyone in, because otherwise we will not be able to give everyone health insurance. So Obama said, no problem. This is what we'll do. And to make everyone go into this program, we will add taxes and penalties. And this will force everyone into the system. This is fantastic. And what else we can do is that even employers will cut hours. So the companies don't have to supply them with the lower insurance. They will have to go out and buy the more expensive insurance. And this is how this entire plan was laid out. But I was reading someplace that a lot of younger people, even older people, what they're doing, since this plan was implemented and you cannot reject anyone, because this was the big thing, you cannot be rejected for it. People are not taking it, and they rather take the penalty in the beginning, and if you came down with an illness, they would go ahead and join up because no one can be rejected, even if you have an illness. So this is what I'm hearing from a lot of people and what their plans are, because the penalties in the beginning are very small. And am I saying to do this? No, this is something that I've been reading, and this is something that I've been hearing from a lot of people. Now, Warren Buffett has decided that his employees should also pay more for their health care. Heinz has recently announced a very significant cut in retiree health benefits. Beginning 2014, Heinz will contribute $1,093 per year per household. The cut, not the first to the retiree benefit, takes the level that Heinz is contributing to the account down from $3,500 per year. And we're seeing a lot of companies do this right now, where they are splitting the health care costs and saying, listen, we will give the main employee health care benefits, but the spouse now has to go to the exchange, and they're cutting their health costs in half by doing this. Now, we have to remember that Obamacare has certain hidden taxes, and we know the hidden tax that if you do not take it, you're penalized, and that tax goes up every single year for 3 years until you reach the height of the percentage that they're going to take from you. Well, millions of Americans are facing hidden tax surcharges on their insurance premiums under President Barack Obama's health care law. The surprise taxes on one customer's bill was $23.14 a month, which is around $277 annually. That was added to his premium. This 2% tax on customers for every health plan is expected to net about $8 billion for the government in 2014. There's also a $2 fee per policy that goes into a new medical research trust fund called the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute. As for insurers, they have to pay a 3.5% user fee to sell medical plans on the healthcare.gov website. Currently, Americans are allowed to deduct medical expenses higher than 7.5% of their incomes, but that figure leaps to 10% under Obamacare, which will cost taxpayers around $15 billion over 10 years. So we can see what is happening here. This entire plan, now you have to think to yourself, he wants to give everyone health care, but in this health care plan, there are many other different things, especially ones for taxes and for people coming into your home like DHS or other government officials to inspect your home for firearms and other things. And here we are just on the aspect of taxes. They are trying to build revenue to pay off this debt, and this is why this has been put into place. But the entire Obamacare system is backfiring. They do not have the amount of people that they thought that were going to be enrolled. Millions of people have been dropped from their medical insurance. Insurance companies are losing money from all of this, and it is getting worse. And one person has put out there already that millions of Americans have lost their insurance plans because of high costs. The new rule changes will exempt those Americans who lost their plans from buying any insurance. This poses a problem for insurance companies. Insurance companies will suffer financial losses. Charles Krafthammer believes that next year will be bailing out the insurance industry, because as this continually degrades and people do not want it, people can't pay for this high insurance. Insurance companies are going to say, listen, we just canceled everyone insurance. No one is signing up for Obamacare. The government is not raising tax revenue. Insurance companies aren't getting their money. And the insurance company can't take their money and invest it into interest-bearing accounts, so they're losing money in that respect. This is going to be a major problem going forward. And if they ask for bailouts, absolutely not. They're on their own. They made this deal with Obama and the White House administration, and now they have to lie in it. Now, we have to ask ourselves, is DHS preparing for an economic collapse. And we have to think back that Obama was out there saying, and Bush implemented this before, but Obama let us know that this is going to go forward full steam, that they need a civilian force separate from the military, that they need something to control the American people. They need something other than the military, because the military and Obama right now are not seeing eye to eye. Obama right now is trying to get rid of the high-ranking officers in the military, and it looks like DHS is his pet military, which will be overseeing the collapse. And what is the DHS actually doing? Well, they're ordering, of course, billions rounds of ammunition. They've ordered tanks and vehicles. They have been giving grants to local law enforcements. They've been giving tanks to local law enforcement. They've been taking over and training law enforcement to be like DHS. They have been arming them. We see in Boston already that the local police there are using AR-15s right now, and many other local law enforcements are starting to ramp up their purchase of AR-15s. And we are seeing that they are dressing more and more like DHS. DHS has ordered uniforms for all of their officers in DHS, and we can see they are expanding. And of course, DHS was designed and created to stop terrorism. Well, we've never seen any type of alert on DHS website. It is always blank. Even when a terrorist attack hits, they have never given any warning whatsoever. They didn't even know about it. Why? Because most of these false flag events are inside jobs, and it's actually done by insider government agencies, and this is why they really don't care about that. We see the NSA and DHS spying on every single American. DHS with their fusion centers and NSA with their Utah data center. And we've come to learn that the NSA has backdoors into pretty much everything, even the RSA token that companies used to use, that still use to get into their secure systems. They paid RSA $10 million to get into the back door, so they can spy on every single person. They are creating social profiles using facial recognition. They are using drones, which is now DHS has control over, and we can see how this is all coming about. And we were warned back in 2008, if there was no bailout, that there would be martial law. So we have to think to ourselves, the next time the system collapses, which is coming up very shortly, we're going to see martial law, because we have to remember that there are no more bailouts because of the Dodd-Frank Act, and there are only bail-ins. And this is where they take your money from your accounts. They freeze the bank. They freeze the bank accounts. They put capital controls into place, and you are only allowed to take out a certain amount each day. We saw the template in Cyprus. And since that time, and we have to remember, since that time, the FDIC Bank of England document was created in December of 2012. The template and the model was used in February, March of 2013. Ever since then, the Eurozone, Canada, Australia, Switzerland, all took the FDIC Bank of England document and copied it, and now they have all the same bail-in procedures as the US and the UK. And they saw that the template worked perfectly. So we are definitely going to see this collapse come forward, and they are completely ready to take the money from everyone's account. And we have to remember, when the bail-in happened, they said it was only going to be 8 to 10%, and they ended up taking 47%. And there was absolutely no warning whatsoever. The Cyprus people woke up, and all of a sudden, everything was shut down. We are going to see the same thing, but we are most likely going to see many different types of false flags events occur during this period, so the blame can be shifted someplace else, which allows DHS then to come in and maintain control of the entire system, I should say. And one government employee said, if the banks are shutting their doors and the cash points aren't working, and people go to a grocery chain and their cards aren't being accepted, the whole thing will just explode and people will start rioting. And actually, this time is worse. We have the Fed pumping in billions upon billions of dollars of each month into the banks and purchasing treasury bonds. We see China making a play to become the next reserve currency. We see that the United States is losing control in the Middle East, and things are just completely falling apart right now. So we can definitely expect DHS, with the help of TSA and FEMA, to maintain control of the population of the United States, and they will be able to handle martial law, and they will then use the tanks. The local enforcement will then use the tanks to maintain control in each neighborhood. And you will see they are all dressed like stormtroopers. They will be in the streets. They will be knocking down your door. They will be getting the people and getting them together to bring you to FEMA camps to maintain control and order around every single area. Now we can see out in Sudan that the U.S. is there, China is there, and U.S. is being evacuated. China just said they want their workers evacuated because there is a war between China and the U.S., if you really want to call it. China is backing the rebels, the U.S. is backing the government, and right now China is pumping in billions of dollars into their infrastructure. They are making deals with Kenya to be the clearinghouse of the yuan, and China is building the infrastructure in Africa. The U.S., the central bankers, see this, and now they are in Central Africa, they are in Sudan, and soon to spread many other places. And right now, 97 Chinese oil workers have been evacuated from South Sudan to the Sudanese capital. China National Petroleum Corporation workers at an oil field in South Sudan's Upper Nile state were removed out of the region after heavy fighting between South Sudanese army and fighters loyal to former Vice President Riek Machar. And the South Sudan rebels seized some oil wells from the government, and the government is saying that they're going to probably damage these oil wells. And it goes on to say that China, which has a significant oil interest in South Sudan, said Thursday it would send its special envoy for Africa to help bring about talks between Kiir and Machar. China is highly concerned about the evolving situation in South Sudan and wants to put an end to this and talk peace. If we move over to the Ukraine right now, they are no longer allowing foreigners into the country because what has happened is foreign dignitaries and foreign citizens have been coming in, pushing these protests, staging these mass rallies, and we saw this during the time that Ukraine was making the decision to go with the EU or Russia. And Ukraine finally decided to go with Russia, and then we saw mass protest, and this was all staged by the central bankers, U.S. government, and the Eurozone to get the Ukrainian government to change their mind or to overthrow or to create a coup and get that government out of there, because the central bankers need to spread the debt into as many countries as possible. So right now, Ukraine, to stop this, has banned foreign people entering their country. Now, we understand that the United States central bankers are losing control of the Middle East. We understand that they are upping their drone attacks in Pakistan, and the Pakistani government does not want them to do this. We see that Yemen is seeing increased drone strikes, and now we see U.S. is rushing dozens of drones and missiles to Iraq to fight the Al-Qaeda insurgency that is happening there right now. And this is actually the people trying to get their country back and push the U.S. central bankers out of the country. And this is actually what the U.S. is fighting right now. And this goes on to say the United States is sending dozens of missiles and surveillance drones to Iraq to help government forces combat an explosion of violence by Al-Qaeda-backed insurgency that is gaining territory in both western Iraq and Syria. A shipment of 75 Hellfire missiles were sent to Iraq last week, and 10 Scan Eagle reconnaissance drones are scheduled to be delivered by March. Iraq's foreign minister has suggested the idea of having U.S.-operated armed Predator or Reaper drones respond to the al-Qaeda threat. And of course, the government there is the puppet government that the central bankers and U.S. government has put in there to maintain control. Now, there is a report that the NSA kind of took down a radio station where Larry Klayman was being interviewed. He is a lawyer who won a preliminary injunction against the NSA bulk collection of phone records, and he was on a WABC radio program, and they began to experience what was termed as a tech meltdown on air. Not only did the program software end up dropping Klayman off the line, but even those who called into the show could not be put on the air, and they're saying this is very odd and strange, and this normally does not happen, and all of a sudden it just came out of nowhere. And during other parts of the interview, Klayman as describing the NSA program as the worst violation of constitutional rights in American history. What's most dangerous about what is going on is the fact that every time someone picks up their phone or sends an email or goes to social media like Facebook, uses Skype, they now know that the government is watching, he said. And this keeps us from being critical of the government. If our founding fathers had lived in these times, if King George III had an NSA with this kind of technological capability, the founding fathers would have been picked up, arrested, and executed before they ever got to Philadelphia to sign the Declaration of Independence. And I completely agree with him that this is why the NSA is out there spying. This is why they are making the social profiles. This is why they want to use facial recognition, because when the threat comes and they feel that their power is in jeopardy, this is when they will start making their move. This is when they will refer to these lists. This is when you'll see DHS like you've never seen them before. This is when everyone becomes a police. Every state becomes a police state. This is when you'll have checkpoints. This is when you'll have martial law. And all this will come about very soon. Now, there is a Wall Street advisor recommending guns, ammo for protection and collapse. A top financial advisor worried that Obamacare, NSA spying scandal, spiraling national debt is increasing the chances for fiscal and social disaster. He is recommending that Americans prepare a bug-out bag that includes food, gun, and ammo to help them stay alive. David John Murata, a Wall Street expert and financial advisor and Forbes contributor, said in a note to investors, firearms are the last item on the list, but they are on the list. There are some terrible people in this world, and you are safer when your trusted neighbors have firearms. And he goes on to say, I, along with many other economists, agree with many of the concerns expressed in their dire warnings. The growing debt and deficit spending is a tax on those holding dollars. The devaluation in the U.S. dollar risks the dollar's status as the reserve currency of the world. He said that Americans should have a survival kit to take in case a financial or natural disaster should happen, and their survival case should be filled with items that will help them stay alive for around 72 hours of the crisis, including firearms. And we know that something is definitely in the works. We see the Fed calling for a taper. They went out and they said they are going to taper because unemployment has come down to 7%, and they are a data-driven Fed system tells them to do it at this point, and we know that the entire market is completely manipulated by the Fed, and we know these aren't true numbers that are coming out, because we have to remember, as of December 28th, 1.3 million people will fall off unemployment, and the unemployment rate will drop. So how are these numbers true? They are not. So they are preparing to create some type of false flag event. What it will be, we do not know at this time, but we can say it could be a natural disaster type of thing that they're going to blame on something happening. It could be a dirty nuke. It could be a cyber attack. It could be a chemical weapon, or it could be all of this happening at the same time, where they'll say, listen, it's from another country. They will blame them for the collapse of America, and then the real QE kicks in like you've never seen before. All of a sudden, we are striking another country, which will lead us into war. Maybe not right away. You have to remember, wars do not start world wars do not start an instant it happens. You have to remember back to World War II. I mean, it really started in the early 30s and went all the way to 45 or so, and or a little bit past that actually. And this is going to go on for a long time, and it will start out small. It will spread. More countries will get involved. Other countries will not get involved. Then they'll eventually have to get involved because they will be attacked, and this will start to spread all around the world. And this is why we see such a mass military buildup everywhere, and we are definitely going to see all of this come about. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.